And talking about MMT, is it? I read somewhere that you ran for government in
In
Australia for
Australia, yeah,
MMT.
yeah,
Is that true?
yeah, totally unsuccessfully.
What was your ambition with
Oh,
that?
look, I was there was a party called the New Liberals that was formed because they said that with Australia's Conservative Party, it's called the Liberal Party. Okay, a bit of a twist.
Right.
The so-called Progressive Party is the Labor Party, and the Liberals have become so conservative that this bunch of people form what they call the New Liberals are saying we want to go back to the broad church that the Liberal Party used to be. It was a socially conservative but nationalist party in some ways initially, and they wanted to form a New Liberals, and they'd learned about modern monetary theory. So they asked that they considered having Warren Mosler as an advisor or me, and they chose me. And then I was advising them on economic policy and helping draft some of their documents. And then the party leader was going to run for the Senate, so that's the upper house. And then when you run for a Senate, you're campaigning at the state level. And he got a bit too confident, and he thought that he could actually win a seat at the representatives level. So he changed from the Senate to the House of Reps, and then approached me to be the Senate candidate. And I thought, why not give it a try? But it was a total failure because, first of all, like his own ambitions were to get 10 or 11% of the vote in the electorate he was running in, which was his home electorate. And because we have a preferential voting system, that could have actually led to him winning the seat. Okay? That was his. Well, he got 0.5% of the vote.
Wow.
Okay, so that was a failure. And then at the Senate level, you really can't campaign for an entire state unless you have a huge budget. We didn't have a budget at all, so I couldn't do any campaigning. So I came last. So it was a failure, unfortunately.
And how was that experience being in politics? Did you have to campaign or something?
Oh,
Or?
like I couldn't really effectively campaign. Like the guy who ran the party, Victor Klein, Victor was out with people door knocking every day in North Sydney, which is the electorate he was running in, had about 200 or 300 people helping him. And the political system, the voting system in Australia is much better than here because rather than like ticking a box, which is what you do over here, you put numbers. If there's 9 candidates, you've got to put 9 numbers, okay? So, and what that means is if you're savvy about how you use it, like I always voted Labor ahead of the Conservatives, the Liberal Party. But I was unhappy with Labor's direction. So I could vote for the Greens, know that the Greens would not get the vote, and then my vote would be redistributed from the Greens to the next one down the ticket. So you could actually use the preferential voting to put the party you wanted to get elected second last and the party you didn't want to have elected go last. And therefore the vote would go to the second last party. So if you're savvy about it, you can decide to give the vote to minority parties and know it's not a waste of your vote.
Okay.
But most Australians aren't that politically aware. So what happened was they'd tell Victor they're going to vote for him, and then they didn't. Okay? So he got... But also there was another progressive movement called the Teals, and they were predominantly women, and they had a large amount of funding from an Australian billionaire, progressive billionaire, and they weren't as a political party, but they were unified community activists fundamentally. Pardon me, and they were successful. So we lost out to another group, and it was largely because we didn't have any funding. So this is one, like the Australian system also gives you a certain amount of money per vote above a threshold. You get, I think, more than 2% of the vote, then you get so many dollars per vote. And that gives you a certain amount of state-based money creation. But still, most parties campaign for private funds. And I think this is one of the best arguments for MMT, is that you should simply fund political parties out of government-created money and ban private donations, because the private donations mean if you get a billionaire property developer gives you money for your campaign, you're likely to be voting for pro-property development policies. So there's a strong argument to democratise the voting system by saying the government will create a set amount of money for electoral campaigns based on the proportional representation of the party involved. That'd be better than letting people buy influence. But as it stands, you haven't got money, you can't get elected.